I'm going to try to pull on your heartstrings today. I'm going to try to pull on your mind. I'm going to try to cause you to think outside of your box. I'm going to talk about certain things, and I'm going to hinge it on something that we all know worldwide, globally. We're coming up on what we call Martin Luther King Day. And those of you who understand what Martin Luther King Day is, Martin Luther King, in 1963, he gave one of the most astounding speeches in front of the Lincoln Memorial. Why was that significant? The reason it was significant because in 1963, it was exactly 100 years to the day of when the proclamation, Emancipation of Proclamation, the document was signed by Abraham Lincoln, of which in 1863, it freed the slaves within America, which also caused the catalyst of freedom of slaves throughout the world. In many countries, we know about this, but it was a powerful speech, and that speech was entitled, "I Have a Dream." I have a dream. I have a dream. You remember the speech as if it was part of you. I'm sure you do, because many of us have heard this speech. I was only 3 years old when this speech was spoken. However, it was 100 years, again, to the date when he made this speech. But a lot of people don't know that. And it was in front of the Lincoln Memorial, in front of the memorial of which recognized the person who actually signed that document to free slavery, to cancel out slavery among the people here in the United States, in the Black community. And I can tell you that that was a major milestone in the history of our nation, but not only our nation, but the history of the world. It resounded all over the world. 100 years to the date, 1963. 1963. It's almost, not hardly, been 50 years since he made that speech. It's been 48 years. Isn't that amazing? 148 years later, we're still speaking about slavery. And in the concept of slavery, I want to say this. Today, I'm going to be speaking about more of our dreams, more of realizing our dreams, more of living out our dreams and not making the excuses. Excuses steal your dreams. Excuses are the opposite of discipline. They're the opposite of commitment and dedication. They're the opposite of sacrifice and self-belief. Because discipline, commitment, dedication, sacrifice, and self-belief and faith within yourself is your toolbox to build your dreams. It's who you are. It's who you are to become. It's what you will utilize to get to where you need to go. Keep your dreams alive. It's important. Unless you understand, unless you push yourself, you're not going to achieve your dreams. Dreams are not accomplished by sitting back and waiting for them to happen. Dreams are accomplished when you push yourself. Dreams are accomplished when you apply yourself. Matthew McConaughey, which many of you know him as a very famous actor. He's also, in my opinion, one of the best philosophers that I've seen in modern day. He made the comment, define what you are not. Work against that conflict, the conflict of doubt. Work against that conflict of the circumstances that you may be in, and work against the insecurities that you may feel that you live in, and work against the excuses that you make that rob you and steal you of your dreams. Matthew McConaughey was right when he said that. Now, I have to ask you though, have you stopped dreaming? Have you lost your dream? And I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. Most all of us, when we were a young child, we knew how to dream. Put yourself back to when you were a small child. Think back as far as you can remember and think those memories that stood out, that were positive, that were powerful in your life. Those moments in your life that you set back without all the knowledge of the world, without all the contamination in your mind of all the different things that would impact your way of thinking. You were young. You had not yet been programmed with all the different things that you had to face in life. Think back to those moments and realize how that nothing was there to stifle your dreams, because all you did was dream. You knew the future was all you had. You didn't have much of a past. You were just a child. You see, all of us as a child, what did you dream about? I dreamed about being Superman. I dreamed about being Spider-Man. I dreamed about being the Hulk. I dreamed about being Iron Man. I had a passion to go by the local drugstore on a consistent basis and buy the next newest Marvel comic book that came out, because I knew that if I could read about that comic book, and I learned how to read, I could read newspapers before I even went to first grade in school. I could read very well, and I learned how to read reading comic books. I know that sounds childish to some of you, but I can tell you that reading those comic books, and one of the most beautiful things about comic books back when I grew up was we dreamed. We imagined ourselves where we would be. We imagined ourselves flying through the air. We imagined ourselves being able to pick up cars and buildings and tossing them out of the way. We imagined ourselves saving the day, right? We imagined, we dreamed. That's what we did. But what robbed us of that dream? What happened? Did we grow up? Did we go through life where some of the things that we thought were true, we found out maybe they weren't? Did someone tell us there was no Santa Claus? Did someone bust our bubble and bust our dreams? Did someone tell us there was no Easter bunny? Did someone tell us there was no tooth fairy? Did someone tell us there was no fairy godmother? Did someone tell us that these things didn't exist, but yet at one time they did? Did we live that dream, and did we allow all these different fictitious things that we were told to believe in, and when we were told that they didn't exist, did it start bursting our bubbles? Then we start growing up, and then when we finally reached adulthood, and we had all these dreams of being spectacular and being this and being that, and then all of a sudden we realize, okay, we got to graduate, we've got to pass those grades, and then we get to the point where we got to get a job. Did we see all the dreams that we thought about just kind of fall by the wayside because we now look at life more in reality than a dream? I'm here to tell you that you can dream again, and I want to convince you as an adult that dreams are not based on unicorns and mermaids. Dreams are not based on cartoons. Adult dreams are built on your ambition and your willingness to sacrifice, to do whatever it takes to get to where you need to be. And it's called pushing yourself and not allowing anything to stand in your way. You're always going to need to give yourself a push. If you're truly going to establish yourself on developing the things in your life and accomplishing things in your life that you want to build your dream with, it's never, ever going to be the things that you want until you do the things that you need to do. And the things that you need to do are the things that you have to automatically, psychologically push yourself to do. It's called disciplines. I've been posting that discipline is sexy, 2021. I'm going to make that term popular this year. I'm going to make it my theme this year. That discipline is sexy in 2021. Why? Because disciplines are what's going to get you from where you're at right now to where you're going to go. Remember this term, parent yourself. Remember that term. Parents have expectations and beliefs in the potential of their children. I'm going to give you a quick little story. I was in 10th grade. I was a sophomore in high school. I was a troubled young man. I made great grades. I did excellent in my grades. I could easily pass a test. I didn't even have to study to pass the test. It was very easy, too easy for me. And when you know those students like that, when it's so easy for them to pass those grades, it makes it very difficult for the teachers because you're always bored. And I was one of those students. I was always on the honor roll, but yet I was always in trouble. I never let my grades down. I wanted to be that college prep because I wanted to be that first person, first in my family to go to college. Because no one in my family had yet gone to college. No one in my family. In the history of my life, in the history of my ancestors, did I know of anyone going to college. I grew up in the mountains of North Georgia. I didn't have a lot of things that people would normally say of, wow, he had a great life growing up. He had a lot of money growing up. No one could say that about me. I grew up on a chicken farm. I grew up working hard from the time I was 4 years old. And I wanted to get my education, and I had my eyes set on becoming a medical doctor, believe it or not. And I even got a scholarship to go to medical school by the time I graduated from high school. Most didn't get their scholarship to go to medical school until they had graduated, or at least gone into 2 or 3 years of their college. I had a lot going for me because my mind worked, but I also had a detriment going for me in different ways. My speech was terrible. I grew up in the mountains. I talked like someone that came out from under a rock. I might have been smart in my head, but it didn't come out in my mouth. I might not have been able to compare myself with people who had more polished lives. And I can remember one day in 10th grade as I was sitting there in chemistry class. I was sitting up in the front row, and you can imagine why I was in the front row is because when you're always in trouble, you're placed in the front row in the class. And I was sitting in the front of the class. I was all the way up to the top left corner of the class. And the way our classes was situated is we had these heavy, really heavy curtains. I'm talking about thick, heavy curtains that you can't hear much through, that would separate the classes, and they would push them open, and it could open up into a big auditorium type style room where they would show the big movies and what have you when we had special days at school. And I was right up against that curtain. And there was someone on the other side that was probably sitting in the front of their class as well. And they were kicking the curtain, and I was trying to take a test. And the more they would kick, and the more they would kick, the more angrier I got. But they had reached their tipping point with me kicking that curtain. So I reared back, sitting in my seat, and I kicked the curtain from my side, and I could hear their desk turn over on the other side. About the time I did that, right in front of me was the door into our classroom in the cement block walls. And in that door, there was this little thin window right above the doorknob that had the little wires in it. You know what I'm talking about, the little rectangular glass. And looking through that glass was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Thomas McNay. And Mr. Thomas McNay had served his time in NASA. He was a very smart man. He was over the science department at our school. And as soon as he seen me do that, as he was walking by, he was looking in that window right at me when I did that. He opened up the door and he goes like this. He said, "Come with me, boy." So we were on our long walk to the principal's office. And as we were on our long walk to the principal's office, he had a talk with me that changed my life. He put his hand on my shoulder and he says, Jef, you have so much potential. That's what he said. Sometimes the things that people say to us may not be a long speech. It may be a short one, but it may be exactly what we need to hear to change our lives. He put his hand on my shoulder, and I could tell he was sincere. He could have looked at me and told me how stupid I was. He could have looked at me and told me how terrible I was. But instead, he looked at me and told me, Jef, you have so much potential. Some of you need to look at yourself in the mirror every day when you wake up every morning. And you need to tell yourself, Marcus, you have so much potential. Silke, you need to look at yourself and say, you have so much potential. Deanna, you need to look at yourself and say, you have so much potential. Suzanne, you need to say to yourself, you have so much potential. Hannah, you need to do the same thing. Romana, you need to do the same thing. Claudia, you need to do the same thing. Sheila, you need to do the same thing. Arturo, you need to do the same thing. Betty, you need to do the same thing. Annika, you need to do the same thing. Are you hearing me? You need to admonish and empower your potential by recognizing who you are now. That's what you need to do. But many times I think people wake up in the mornings and we look into the mirror as we're the first person that we see every day. And we judge ourselves harshly instead of looking at ourselves and realizing our potential. Parent yourself. If you're a parent and you have children, do you not look at your children and see their potential? You see it beyond anything else that you see. No matter what they do, you see their potential. That's what you see. As they grow up, they may turn out to be something totally different than what you imagined them to be. You had your dream that you thought they would become, and they may surprise you and become even greater than that. They may disappoint you because they live their own life and they make their own decisions. But regardless, you need to parent yourself and look at yourself and see your potential. Are you hearing how this envelops around the speech that Martin Luther King made in 1963 when he stood up in front of thousands and thousands of people in front of the Lincoln Memorial, all the way looking as far as you can see, seeing people all the way back beyond the Washington Monument, beyond the reflective pools. As he said, I have a dream, I have a dream. I have seen the other side. Do you remember that? The power of the belief in someone's potential. He's seen the potential in the people. He's seen the potential in America. He's seen the potential in the world. He's seen the potential in people. He's seen the potential. Here's the shocker, the real truth. No one is going to do it for you. No one's coming. No one is your Martin Luther King. You are. I'm speaking from the heart today because I love you and I appreciate you and I know your potential. No one's coming to push you. No one's coming to tell you to quit wasting your time. That's called discipline of you doing yourself. No one's coming to you to tell you to turn off the TV or the internet where it absorbs and steals your life away when you could be using those hours every day to build your dream. The Atteva dream is your dream. I had to think long and hard before I had this speech in front of you today. No one's going to decide for you. No one's going to exercise for you. No one's going to eat right for you. No one's going to write your business plan for you. It's yours. Only you can do it. And when you decide to discipline yourself, discipline is sexy in 2021 because it is. It's yours. It's your dream. It's your mission. And it's from your potential. I remember Dexter Yeager saying over and over and over, lead, follow, or get out of the way. But if you knew Dexter Yeager, and I did very well, one of the things that he made very clear when he said that, I remember him telling me one day, he said, Jeff, what I meant by that was not lead, follow, or get out of the way of someone else, but get out of your own way. Get out of your own way. In order to achieve your dream, you have to get out of your own way. That's what he told me. To be what you've never been before, you have to do things you've never done before. Say things you've never said before. Change yourself for the better and don't live life for the bitter. There's been a lot of people going through a lot of stuff over the last lifetime, especially the last year, last 2 years. We all have the ability with a free card right now, a free card. We all have a free card. We all have that Joker card to be able to claim an excuse of why we can't. The world is in an economic craziness, uncertainty. We have no idea how much that impacts people's brains, the way they program themselves to accept the fact, I now have an excuse. I now have a reason not to succeed. I now have a reason not to push myself because there's so many people out there that are going to suffer long term, and I can just join in and I've got an excuse of why I'm not going to do something. I've got news for you, folks. No matter what kind of world that we live in, we always can find an excuse of why we don't. You'll never find an excuse of why you succeed. There is no such thing. Raise your hand if you're getting anything out of this today, because this is from my heart. No excuses. See, it's easy to accept the fact when it's not really a fact. It's easy to accept the fact I'm not good enough. I wasn't born in the right family. I wasn't born with the right color of skin. I wasn't born in an educated scenario. I wasn't educated myself. I'm not tall. I'm not a good speaker. We can make up any kind of excuse we want to. I just told you, I remember when I was 16 years old, one of my first mentors in life pulled me over to the side and said, Jeff, you're smart, but you need to hang around people who don't talk like you do because you don't sound intelligent, but you are. And that impacted me. It didn't make me sad. It didn't make me walk away and cry. It didn't make me walk away and feel sorry for myself. It didn't make me walk away and make excuses. It made me walk away and look for the solution. Look for the way of moving up Not in a way to where I could find a way to accept where I was at as this is just the way it is. Haven't you noticed that the main excuse that people use? Well, this is just the way I am. You don't like it. Sorry. We're in a society today where the percentage of people who want to move up in life is great, but the percentage of people who are willing to sacrifice to get there is small. It's because we need more people hearing things like I'm saying today. We need more people hearing each other tell people to get up and get going. We need more people with fire in their bones to share that fire with other people and share that excitement so it's competitive within ourselves and not toward each other. We need to compete with who we were today. We don't need to compete with our fellow man. We need to compete with who we are. When I go out to the golf course, I can tell you for a fact I'm not competing with anyone out there. I'm competing with my last score. I'm competing against my own talent. I'm competing against my own expertise. I'm competing against my own abilities. I'm competing against what I did yesterday. I brought up Matthew McConaughey earlier. Matthew McConaughey made a comment once when he was asked who his hero was. He said, it's who I am 20 years from now is my hero. My hero is myself 20 years from now. My hero is myself 10 years from now. That's who your hero should be. It shouldn't be someone you idolize out there. I made a comment on Facebook yesterday bringing a point. Even me, I don't know how many of you've done it, but I've done it. I've quoted people like Steve Jobs. I've quoted people like Warren Buffett. I've quoted people like Bill Gates. I've quoted people like some of the most wealthiest individuals, the Elon Musks of the world. I've quoted them over and over and over and over. I've studied them. I've studied their lives. I've studied their expertise. I've studied the way that they think. I've even studied the way that they manage. But they're not even in my expertise. They're not even in my world. They're not in direct sales. They're not doing what I am planning on doing. Why am I wasting my time studying someone that grows watermelons when I'm over here trying to be the best at growing corn? Study who is good at what you do. Study you. We have a tendency of knowing everyone else except for us. We have a tendency of knowing what everyone else is doing, but we never study our own path. If we don't study our own path, how are we going to get to where we need to go? If we're always reading the maps that someone else is following, how are we ever going to achieve our destination that we're trying to accomplish if we're not reading our own map that is our own GPS taking us to where we need to go? The last time I checked, I don't know anyone on this page that I'm speaking to right now on Zoom that your destination is to own the next Apple, or your destination is to own the next SpaceX, or your destination is to own the next IBM or Microsoft. I don't think that's your goal. If it is, study them. But if your goal is to be the best at you, follow your dream. Don't follow someone else's dream. Someone else's dream will not take you to your dream. Your dreams aren't achieved in a Disney World mentality, and I think that's kind of where we're at right now. Some of you don't know this, but those of you who has been to Disney World in Florida, Disney was always known for someone who created the dreams. Walt Disney was one of the most amazing creative minds you could ever imagine. But some of you don't know this. Disney World was built on a swamp, the cheapest land that could be purchased in Florida. The swamp was drained. The swamp was dammed up. Much of it was turned into lakes, and the rest of it was turned into islands, which made up what we call today Disney World. It's not easy to build your dream. We go to Disney World and we experience the dream of Disney. It's a wonderful trip. I used to take my children there. Chalita's on here right now. She knows this. I used to take them almost every week during the summer times. We'd leave out in the morning on a Monday and miss the crowds on the weekend and come back on Fridays. Sometimes we'd fly down. We'd go down there sometimes all summer long just so we could experience living in that dream world of Epcot and MGM and Disney and Universal Studios and all the other things that were created in Orlando. I even moved down there eventually as an adult. My last place I lived other than Georgia was in Orlando. I love that Disney atmosphere. I love the dream. But sometimes we need to realize our greatest dreams are built on our lives as we drain the swamps of our own lives and get the swamps out of our way so that the dreams can live. Your potential depends on it. That's where I was at when Mr. Mine looked at me and said, Jef, you have so much potential. I was in my swamp when he said that. I was not on my dream. I was in my swamp. What is potential? Potential is when you realize that you're capable of much more. And I'm going to look at every one of you in the face. I want you to think about that as if I'm looking at every one of you in the face as I'm looking in this camera. You have potential. It's all on you. That's where discipline comes in. You see, the worst liar that you'll ever contend with is living inside your own skin. It's you telling yourself that you can't. So what's the answer? Take action, the correct actions, consistency, being on the training calls, inviting people to the webinars that your leaders are asking you to bring people to so they can help you build your team. They're sacrificing their time so that you can build your dream. Be consistent and be disciplined to build your dream in 2021, and don't let anything stand in the way. Consistency. Defrag your hard drive. Get rid of your swamp of information that's constantly bombarding you and taking your dream away by distracting you and causing you to think about 1,000 different things other than what you should be thinking about, your dream. Positive programming only. Put the trash in the trash. Trash the trash. You'll start to believe in yourself. You'll see yourself differently. No more swamp. No more excuses. No more doubt. You won't feel unworthy. You won't sit back and watch the world go by. And quit knowing everyone else better than you know yourself. That's one of the biggest detriments to social media is you're always studying everyone else instead of studying your own future and designing and architecting your own path. Don't waste your life on everyone else's dreams and drama. It's not worth it. Defining your dream is not found in their drama. No wonder people stop dreaming. They're living life on someone else's news feed. When I was young, I never will forget, I used to have this sports car. One of my sports cars, I was driving my sports car down the road. And as I was driving my sports car down the road, I'm sitting there and I could hear my engine roaring, and I had the fastest car in probably 100 miles. I mean, I was proud of that car, and it was an amazing car. I won't go into details, but it was an amazing car. And I'm sitting in this car, and I'm going down the interstate, and I look over to my right, and here's this minivan that I'm going by. I'm passing the minivan slowly. In the minivan, there's this man driving the minivan. His wife's in the car. They got a dog. They got 2 kids. And the 2 little kids were up against the window like this, looking at me. They still dreamed. You can see them going. You know what went through my mind? After seeing that and I contemplated on it, I thought, the man driving the car, he looked at me a different way. He looked at me like, you know what I'm saying? But I guarantee you, at one time, he was like one of his kids in the back seat, like this. What happened? He grew up. And he quit dreaming. He settled. He could still have the wife and the dog and the kids, but it didn't mean he had to give up his dreams. But why did he? Or maybe he didn't, or maybe he did. I don't know. But I can tell you right now, he didn't have the same look on his face as those 2 kids in the back seat. You could see the dream. We need to learn how to look at our life in the future with this look. That's what we need to be seeing our life like. It's like this. We need to be able to dream of where we're going to like this. Right? That's what we need to start feeling again. We don't need to be that minivan mentality of a dream. We need to look at our future as if it's like that sports car. Right? I'm not saying to go out and waste your money on a sports car. That's not what I'm saying. Don't anybody take me wrong. I've wasted a lot of money in my lifetime. But we need to have the dream. Let's exchange the sports car for something else. And that means let's look at this swamp that we're trying to drain as us being the lump of coal that we are right now, that we are deciding to look at the rank of diamond like this. Let's make diamond our goal. Let's move to diamond. Let's achieve diamond. Let's think diamond. Let's say diamond so many times that we're sick of saying diamond. Let's say diamond, diamond, diamond. That's what we need to be saying. We need to be stimulating our goal to become diamond. We don't need to be stimulating our goal to be focused on the lump of coal that's going to be under the pressure to become that diamond. Because guess what? You will never become the diamond until you're willing to go under the pressure of pushing yourself. It will never happen. You become diamond because you become disciplined. You are going to be disciplined in 2021. You're going to be sexy in 2021 because you're disciplined. Diamond. I told you this was coming from the heart today. Who stole your dream? I want you to wake up out of your slumber. I want you to wake up out of your swamp. I want you to wake up out of your coal. I want you to become diamond. I want you to think diamond. I want you to think about the process of becoming diamond. I want you to accept the fact that it's going to be hard. I want you to accept the fact that it's going to be tough. I want you to accept the fact that it's not going to be easy. I want you to accept the fact that it's going to be a rough road to get there. And I want you to realize that no matter what achievement that you're going to achieve in life, it's going to take effort and it's going to take vitality of you personally admitting that you do not want to do certain things, but you're going to do it anyway. And it's called discipline to get there. Remember, you'll never get to where you're going to be, where you want to be, until you do the things that you need to do. And the things that you need to do are not something you want to do. The needs have to be fulfilled to get you to the wants. It's never going to change. Any other mentality is a lottery mentality, as if you're just going to sign up in some company and expect the lottery to drop down. Hey, you're a winner today. You got lucky. This is not about luck. This is about you. Your dream is built on draining your swamp. Your goals. What's your goals? 5 nights a week, maybe even 6 nights a week. Your goals, 5 nights a week, maybe 6 nights a week. Your goals, 5 nights a week, maybe 6 nights a week. And then it's possible. You see, there's going to be a lot of people out there that won't do it because they're going to be discouraged with their own minds. They're not going to take control. They're going to not say, I don't want to deal with the pain. I don't want to deal with the effort. I don't want to deal with the discipline. I don't want to have to push myself. I don't want to have to add that extra 2 hours a day and sacrifice being able to play on social media. The only way you're going to achieve your dream is to sacrifice. This is a hardcore speech today, folks. This is hardcore. It's not the easiest thing for you to swallow, but it's what you need to hear. It's the difference between your success and your failure. It's worth it, though. It's imperative to get the losers out of your life. You didn't expect to hear that part, did you? Get the losers out of your life. Les Brown is the champion of saying that. Get the losers out of your life. Get the people away from you that are throwing water on your fire. If you want to live your dream, you have to. Then you become unstoppable. We can have that motto of Atteva called no limits. No limits. There are no limits on a disciplined life. There never has been. You've heard me say this, that my mother wasn't educated. She had a 9th grade education, didn't even finish high school. She went back and got her GED later and became a real estate broker, and a phenomenal real estate broker, and kept moving up in life. But when she was a child, she had to go to work very early in life and help support her family. But one of the nuggets that she gave me on a daily basis, she never let a single day go by. Again, parent yourself. So when you hear my parent talk to me, you need to parent yourself. And you need to say this to yourself. Because she said this to me every day. She said, Jef, you can do anything you set your mind to do. And if you set your mind to do it, you have to do it. And she also had this country Appalachian saying, and I'm sure you can understand what it means. It says, can't, never, did, do, nothing. That's what she said. It's terrible English. But anytime she ever heard anyone make an excuse, she would say, can't, never, did, do, nothing. You'll be unstoppable. You'll live a life of no limits if you make no excuses. It's called discipline. You're unique. Invest in yourself. If you're going to invest in a stock, you want to invest in a stock that you know is going to make it. Invest in yourself so you will have confidence in making it. Invest in who you are. Invest in your mind. Invest in your steps of who you're going to become. Don't invest in your excuses. They won't get you there. Don't live the life. I want you to hear this part, because if there's anything that I ever heard from Martin Luther King, and this is kind of the speech that's a dedication to him today. If there's anything that I heard him say within his speeches, was this: don't live the life of a victim. Don't be the victim mentality. Don't live the life of a victim. Don't make excuses all your life. Move up. Represent your dream. Represent your possibilities. Represent your potential. Represent your design. It's your DNA that you're creating here. It's your DNA that your expectations are going to be lived out. Your expectations that you see in your children. Look at yourself the same way in the mirror and see the expectations that you see in yourself. Parent yourself. Be disciplined. When someone says no, don't worry about it. Don't let it affect you. They're not saying no to your dream. They're saying no to their dream when they say no. When somebody doesn't show up, don't worry about it. They're saying no to their dream, not yours. When someone doubts you, when someone talks about you, when someone ridicules you, when somebody puts you down because you decided to step up. You see, this is the thing. When you decide to move up and you're surrounded by people that are close to you, one of the things that you can expect is the fact that they're going to feel threatened because they've been buddying with you for a while. And you'll find very quickly those who love you and those who don't. Because those who are selfish are going to get upset when you move up because you're leaving them behind. And that's okay. That's their decision. You need to move up. Don't allow the opinions of others to hold you back. Even if they get jealous and they resent you for making a decision to make your life better, do not let that hold you back. Don't let it stop you. Don't let it steal your dream. Don't let it slow you down, and don't let it define you. Don't let their rejection of you cause you to reject who you are. I'm going to finish up with saying this. And I'm sure you know whose words these are, because what I'm about to say to you is not my words. And I'm going to say it like this. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi, go back to Alabama, go back to South Carolina, go back to Georgia, go back to Louisiana. Go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friends, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and little white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. I have a dream. Thank you for listening to me today. I hope that some way you'll leave out of this meeting today charged, energized, pushing away the excuses, and making a decision with a fortitude that no one else could even compare you to ever have before, to realize your dream, seeing yourself in the mirror as a chunk of coal under pressure, making the diamond that you are. I had to say this today. This was important because you're important. And we're going to move through 2021 together, climbing that mountain of prosperity around the world with Atteva. Michael Weeder, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Jeff. Not only inspiring, but very timely with Martin Luther King Day coming up. You know, one of the things that you had mentioned and you talked about was Disney and basically, you know, Disneyland, Disney World. Walt Disney is one of my favorite stories. And, you know, when you talk about no excuses and you talk about perseverance, you know, which is basically what it takes, and having the goal and the dream was what it takes to be successful. I mean, there's no way really around it. And, you know, if you know about the story of Walt Disney, you know, he started as a cartoonist and working in Kansas City. And from a cartoonist, he decided to start his own studio, basically an animation studio called Laugh-O-Grams. And this was in the early 1920s. And in 1923, his studio, Laugh-O-Grams, went bankrupt. And so he had a massive failure, and then he decided to start. But while he was doing Laugh-O-Grams, he actually did a 12-minute short film called Alice in Wonderland. And he wasn't able to sell the rights to Alice in Wonderland soon enough to be able to keep Laugh-O-Grams. So he had to go bankrupt. He formed another company, and he was able to sell the rights to Alice in Wonderland to a woman and her husband, who went on to basically, and Alice in Wonderland went on to be a very successful short film. But he didn't make any money from those rights. And with his new studio, he started a character called Oswald, the Lucky Rabbit. And Oswald started to become a success, and he had sold the licensing rights to Oswald to the same couple, and he was getting a royalty for producing these Oswald videos, or these Oswald animated shorts. And the royalty that he was getting was so small that his studio, he had hired animators and so forth, and his studio was continuing to lose money, even though he had created a successful character. And so what he decided to do is, he was in California at the time, and he decided to take a train, and this was in 1927. He decided to take a train over to New York to be able to meet with the people that held the rights and try and negotiate a better fee because he had at the time had been letting people had been, he had a studio full of animators, and these animators were quitting and so forth because he wasn't able to pay them. And when he got to New York after that train ride and met with this couple, and the guy's name was Mintz, basically. Mintz knew that he was coming to renegotiate his licensing fee, but Mintz also knew at that time in 1927, it was right before the Depression, and Mintz was going to try and actually offer him less of a licensing fee. And when he got to New York and he walked into their offices, he also noticed that half the animators that he had with his studio were now working with Mintz. And Mintz told him, instead of the 30% that he was getting for the licensing fee, Mintz told him that he was going to renegotiate the contract, but it was only going to be for 20%. And so here Walt Disney, again, after already one failed bankruptcy, and then going to New York after making these people all this money and trying to basically, figure out a way to be able to salvage his company, his second business, and then finding out that no, in fact, he was going to get less of a fee, and seeing some of his animators already there, had to take that long train ride back from New York to Los Angeles. And he was depressed, as you can imagine, and looking at his second failure. And on his way back on that train ride, he sat down and he drew a picture. And the picture that he drew was of Mickey Mouse. So, even though they could take his ideas, they could take his company, they could take some of his people, the one thing they couldn't take from Walt Disney was its magic. And I think that you guys all have magic in you as well. And let's let the world see it. That's all I want to say, Jeff. Thank you again.
Oh, that's so inspiring, Michael. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.